Welcome to Home's Room. Just like homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. Hello. Thanks for joining us. This episode is really exciting because it's kicking off our Boss Babes series, Volume 2, second annual. But yeah, we're excited about, bringing back the Boss Babe series, and, listeners seem to really respond to that. How did you respond to that there, my friend Kaitlin?
Always excited for this now. I think now at this point, Matt, we can call it a fun family tradition at Home's Room Podcast. And I don't come from a family where we have many family traditions, so it's one that I hold very near and dear. But yeah, I'm excited for this next round of interviews to come out, just because you so graciously invited me to co-interview more than last year's series. Yeah. And I think it's, as always, a great chunk of work that we do here on Home's Room. And yeah, I just love it a lot. And again, so thankful that for whatever reason, you let this mouthy Midwestern girl join along on the ride.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because today in the episode that dropped, you said something to that same effect, and then called me a Midwestern, two Midwesterners, and I was like, I'm not from the Midwest, and I said I'm from the Mid-Atlantic, and then you said fine, Kansas boy, and it's like, I'm still not, I'm not from Kansas, I'm from Maryland.
Granted,
I was like, man,
that was however many weeks ago that we recorded that episode. I have learned my lesson. You're maybe not necessarily so much of a corn-fed Midwesterner as I am, but I listened to that episode as it came out, and I was like, man, Kaitlin.
It was just funny, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. But in your defense, whenever I say I'm from Maryland, people say up there, and I'm always like, where do you think that is? And then they always respond by Maine and all that, right? And it's like, no. It is a straight line across from Kansas and Missouri, straight line. I-70 runs from here to there, terminates in that general vicinity. So yeah, straight highway all the way through. It's even almost plain Mid-Atlantic, as middle as you can get. And then I always have to give them a history lesson on what Maryland is geographically and what Maryland is historically. And they're not ready for that conversation. And probably nobody on this particular episode is ready for that conversation.
They're not.
So
Matt, I just hear Maryland and I just instantly crave seafood. So
as you should. So ironically enough, today, we're winding down. School's almost over for us. So there was a teacher whose relation of some sort, father-in-law, some sort of patriarchal figure in her life, came in, and they're from Louisiana, and he was reading a book about, it was Little Red Riding Hood, but it was told from the perspective of a Louisiana duck and a gator, which was actually kind of good. However, it was about the food, and it just makes me laugh because again, the Mid-Atlantic food, and when you think of what seafood comes from the Mid-Atlantic, everybody always gets it confused with what comes from Louisiana. And I don't know why, because they are completely different. Yes, they both have crab. Yes, they both might have shrimp, but that is not the same kind of food. So stop it.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first, homies.
Yeah. But no, like I said, it's just fun, but it was a good story. And as such, and in the theme of Boss Babes, I just got back late recording because I was at my daughter's 8th grade promotion, and she's about to embark in high school, and I am super proud of her. I think that she embodies what I try and create here. She is her own person. She tries to do everything she can to understand right from wrong in a way that her moral compass kind of guides, and she's an artist. She doesn't necessarily care what people think in the same ways that, like, you know, I might have been saddled with, or you might have been saddled with. She is marching to the beat of her own drum. And as a parent, I can't ask for anything more. As a girl dad, I can't ask for anything more, because very few guys are going to come mess with the girl that has bright, fiery red hair and with black. It's always red and black. A ghost face knife around her neck, and sometimes vampire fangs in. So yeah, she is her own thing.
I love her already. She just do it. And to be so bold at 8th grade, I love it too.
Yeah.
Do you have a different perspective about this Boss Babe series coming off of your daughter's graduation than maybe you did coming off of the first series of Boss Babe interviews?
That is a very good question. And I think that, like, when you hear a lot of podcasts and you hear a lot of podcasters, you know, like, one of the things that I'm really, like, unfortunately falling into the realm of now is, like, somebody that I support, and I have to question, like, whether they hold racist views, or whether they like are doing something behind the scenes that I don't know about. And I didn't used to have to think about that, because so many people are coming out with, like, you know, they like a post about, you know, the, like, murder of George Floyd, like, the things that would ordinarily, like, go unnoticed are now being, like, put under microscopes. So it's like, oh, this person liked this poster, this person, you know, follows this person who says these things, and now you pay attention to it more. And I, as a podcaster, try and walk the talk. So coming off of last year's Boss Babes, the reason that even happened was because I started to look at the people that I was around and seeing, and I was like, you know, some of these women have so many good stories and so much, like, that deserves to be heard. I have a microphone and a platform, albeit not very big, that I can have them talk on. So I was super excited, and it gets talked about a lot. One of the most like, mentioned interviews I did last time was with the Pretzely truck and Alyssa, and how good that interview was. And that one happened purely because I saw her and I was like, yo, I'm gonna shoot my shot. Can you come on my show and have this conversation? Because I truly, genuinely believe in that message. So having my daughter, you know, get good grades, be recognized for honor roll, all those kinds of things, and still be an independent person in a place that is very relatively rural. So, like, it's easy to fall into, like, I have to be this type of way so that I don't get swept up in everybody else's crap. And she's not that. She's very much loud as a person in her identity. And I love that so much, but also I kind of am not surprised, because that's what I try and put out there. So this iteration of it and what's going on, I'm proud to have been able to do what I've done, and I'm proud to celebrate women, you know, the way that I do. One of the things, like, I'm really, really jazzed about right now, and I was going to mention, because this is Boss Babes and, you know, it's like, whatever, it's the PWHL playoffs for you know, the inaugural season. And I never thought I'd be a Boston sports fan, but two of my favorite players went there originally in the draft, and then another player that was, like, kind of a breakout for me, who I didn't know much about before, but I started watching her play, and then she got traded to that team, and she fit in the style that they're playing. And I was like, damn it, I'm hardcore Boston sports fan for this team now. So, you know,
are you a Bruins fan too, homie, or what?
No, hell no. Never, not even close.
Okay.
No. And again, you know, it's one of those things where celebrating women's sports, we go to KC Current games quite frequently. Awesome hookup from Courtney's job. You know, that is amazing. I'm glad we get to support that. I was wearing a Current shirt last Friday, and somebody was like, oh, are you a fan? It's like, no, I'm just wearing the shirt because, like, it fits.
Just for no reason.
Well, yeah. Have you been to a game? It's like, yeah, we've been to quite a few games, because we are excited about a women's sport being put on a main stage close enough to us, which PWHL, if anybody listens to this, and maybe I'll post this online, we want a team in Kansas City. Give us a team in Kansas City. There's that. Anyway, how do you feel, as another year comes up on you being, from this particular point in time, a mom of a young girl and going into the Boss Babe series, and what your, I guess, offering up into that realm is?
So bookmark this. My ADHD meds are wearing off, and I have a very specific question that I want to ask you, homie. But to be your co-host, for this to be the second iteration of the series, I feel so unbelievably blessed and excited for this to be something that I didn't realize that I had a passion for until you gave the space for it. To have the opportunity to not just women entrepreneurs, but just, women in general, especially as we're recording this, we're coming a week and a half off of Harrison Butker's
yeah, we were going to
comments that he gave at his very Catholic commencement speech. And I am also on TikTok reacting to all of these comments and stitching them and giving my perspective and just letting people know that, like, hey, your life does not begin you got this degree. Your life does not begin when you become a homemaker and you become a wife and you bring children into this world. I'm very excited for this next series of Boss Babe interviews because, again, I was a co-host for more of the interviews for this series. I do not think, though, honestly, Matt, that we will ever be able to top our interview with your mama.
Yeah.
That was, if not the first, one of the very first interviews that we ever did together. But Mama Faye, adore you. Mama Holmes Room, we love you so much. Still, I re-listened to that interview on my way into work today and was just so flooded with her love for you, and to even be a part of something where I know that your kids will hopefully listen to that interview in the future and be like, yeah, that's my grandma. Hell yeah. But so specific to the bookmarking back interview of the question that I wanted to ask you, the prompt that you gave me for this episode was, this is our kickoff episode for yet another Boss Babe series. But I want to go even more hindsight from that. Matt Holmes, when you even got the first idea of a podcast, I want to have Holmes Room podcast, before we randomly got connected, before you even had your amazing song that I look forward to listening to every single week, our wonderful theme song, before you even had podcast art. Go back to that version of Matt. And here we are, a year and a half, maybe. Are we 2 years? Year and a half-ish, maybe?
Year and a half, yeah.
From when you first had your baby, your first concept of I want to have a podcast, to now here we are about to kick off the second series of Boss Babe. If you could go back to that version of yourself where you had this first idea for the very first time of, I think I want to have a podcast, what would you tell that past version of yourself?
Do a little bit more research. I tried to be really prepared, and like you said, when I set out to thinking about doing this, I know that my heart was in the right place, and I know that my mind was trying to wrap around the process and what I needed and all of those things. And I think doing a little bit more research, I might have had a little bit more insight into like making the show more successful, like listener wise off the bat than I do now. And now we're like kind of where we are. So it just is, I'm not as worried about it as I would have been. But, I think, like I said, do a little bit more research. I'm super proud that like off the bat, I feel like I was getting interviews with people that were above my weight class, and they were walking away from those interviews being like, oh man, like this is legit and you are a really good interviewer. I was not sure what to expect, and I'm so glad we did this. This was so fun. Normally I'm like, is it over? Can we, like, are we done? Are we but I legitimately could like continue to talk, but I got to run out and go do something. Mm-hmm. I wish I hadn't scheduled this with like, you know, that like safety exit kind of thing.
Yep.
So like I said, if I had done a little bit more research, I think that would have gotten me more prepared for what I needed.
But homie, do you feel a little bit proud of yourself?
Yeah, I'm definitely proud of myself. I think what makes me the most proud is the consistency. Consistency is, what is that stupid quote? Consistency is doing something even when you don't want to. And
yep.
I think that there's times where, you know, I got to edit an episode, or times where I got to like go research a thing and I really don't want to. And, you know, it doesn't, those moments don't show up in what we put out.
Mm-hmm.
The product that we put out seems more polished. Like that was early on, especially. That was one of my favorite compliments to get, is people were like, these episodes seem like third season in kind of episodes. They do not seem like you just picked up a microphone to do this like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And, you know, as a podcaster, you know, trying to do your own interviews for your own podcast, you know, the Dead Parents Party podcast, those things that come with like experience, that learning curve. And I was like, man, I'm going to be interviewing like my friends forever because nobody's going to want to come on the show. And then I started to get interviews outside of that. And I was like, this is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was super proud of, you know, like the way that we linked up. That could have gone super fucking sideways, super fucking fast. And, you know, it didn't. And, you know, I try not to mention the beginning of the show because of personal reasons, but, you know, those situations happen, and I'm proud that I've made it through that, because I could have just called it quits then. I could have just said, well, I'm done. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the risk on asking this, you know, this girl I've never met back onto the show to do a trial co-host episode, see whether we still vibe the same way we did that first time, or if that was a fluke. And, you know, here we are a year later, you know, still recording episodes, still not having ever met each other. But, you know, I love it. And
can we just put as just like a benchmark goal for the next series of Boss Babes? Can we have just at least met up for lunch one time before we're sitting here recording the next kickoff interview of Boss Babes? Whether it means that I have to drive to Kansas City or what, you know, I think that's another thing too. I've gotten like
Springfield. We just got to go do something in Springfield, because that's like halfway between us.
10 out of 10, 100% vibe to that. But I've gotten like listener feedback and people that have gone out of their way to message me and been like the, you know, the vibe that you and Matt have together. It's like you and Matt are our homies. Like you two are the homies of Holmes Room. And I'm like, I love that. I'm so excited to hear that. But Matt Holmes has never been a face off of my iPad screen. Or like text messages, you know, on my phone. I'm not mad about it. You know, before, like now I'm less plugged in, but probably about this time last year, I was super plugged into a Discord community, and I had a bunch of friends that I had never met online, or like I'd never met in person, that I was very good friends with online. Like we talked all the time. And I think that's just another opportunity for maybe our listeners that, like, you know, put yourself out there on those online communities or those Discord communities or those Facebook groups or whatever. You know, you never know what type of relationships can come from those super organic introductions and those like weird prompts. There's a niche community for everybody. Like if you are a East Coast single mom of multiple children and your favorite thing to do is crochet, there is a community out there online for you specifically. And I'm not saying that like that's just a very off the wall example. Matt and I just got very lucky, and I just got very lucky that you were like, hey, I had fun on this one random interview for this Mouthy Broads book. Like,
yeah. When we have fun, especially like the episodes where we genuinely have fun, like the last one we recorded, like when we wrap up an episode and you're like, that was fun.
mm-hmm.
Those I think are the ones that come across where people feel like they're our homies, and that's what we create. And like you're really big about, you know, on air appreciating me for being able to like tell you how it is. And that's one of my really good friends that I met through Derby. Her thing is always like, she loves me because I'll tell it to you straight,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't sugarcoat it, especially in the sense of if I think that you can do better, not because I'm like, you need to do better because I'm disappointed, but like, I just know that you have it in you.
Yep.
And I want to encourage that. I'm like willing to give that feedback and do that thing. So like for you, whenever I give feedback of, you know, like, hey, do this thing, or hey, we need to get back on this, or hey, whatever, like it's super easy for what we do and how we know each other for you to be like, well, fuck that guy, and come back with the salty attitude, but you don't. And that comes to the way that
so Home's Room listeners, this is a podcast exclusive. There was one text that he sent me probably about 2-3 months ago where he said, hey, don't get mad or don't read into this text, but also here's some very specific feedback about you as a co-host. And I was like, oh, it was just a very bad like anxiety day for me, whatever. And I said, hey, I'm really trying hard not to read into this, but also like you were out with like an outing with Court and you were like doing something or whatever. And it took you some time to text back from me. And I was just like spiraling the whole time. What I've also learned through this fun adventure that you're allowing me to be a part of on Home's Room podcast, and as my homie, as my friend, and especially as my co-host, is learning to understand the other person's love language. And there are very few friends that I have in my life who are like, hey, don't like that. Not telling you this out of like, you know, spite or anger or out of ill intention. I'm just setting this as a boundary for you and I to be friends and homies. Don't like that. Whereas if I had been 3-4 years ago, or even in like college, if one of my friends would have told me like, hey, don't say this like that, because it's like not really something that I want to hear, or just like that's not really a term that floats with me or whatever, I would have been lost in the sauce and circling and been and given you that exact, you know, feedback that you just used as an example of like, oh, well, fuck this guy. You know, one of my favorite interviews for this new Boss Babe series that's going to come out is yet again with our Sex Reimagined homies. I love them so much. And I asked them point blank, I'm like, listen, you guys are co-hosts. You have, you know, separate business ventures. Like, how do you guys deal with, you know, you two as co-hosts, not necessarily vibing 100% all the time? Like, what was the process like of setting boundaries? And I forget which one, but one of them said, oh no, it's been wonderful and great and totally seamless the entire time. And I laughed a deep belly laugh. It's one of those situations too, where in adulthood, you make the choice of friendships and relationships that are serving you and those that are not. I have, you know, one of my close friends that also works in law enforcement that she gave a really good example of like, if I hang out with you and I feel completely exhausted and my social battery is drained, that's an indicator. But after I come out, if I come out of a hangout with you and I feel rejuvenated and I feel like inspired and I feel like my creative energy is that's another indicator about whether or not that's a healthy relationship with me. Matt and I have said multiple times after recording these episodes of like, Mondays are a hard day of the week for us. We're coming off of fun weekends. We're coming off of fun weekends of Skelly Big being super decorated and like the Jeep is cleaned, or the Charger, the Challenger, whichever one you have that's like decked out, and you post a picture in your driveway or in the street in front of your house. Mondays are a hard week for us, but without fail, we record these episodes on Monday nights, and more often than not, we hit stop. We have a quick episode debrief. And I'm like, I don't know why I was dreading this as like another energy expenditure. Like,
she hates me.
It's less about you, Matt, and it's more about ADHD and spoon theory. One thing that we've hinted on in prior episodes of like, I have a limited amount of energy. I have a limited amount of things that I want to give a focus and a priority to at the end of the day. Sitting at the end of a work day, after my kids are in bed, after dinner's done, after the house is cleaned up, to sit here and do this with you too, it's like, oh, that's just another hour and a half or 2 hours that I have to like be on for the day. Homies, I'm telling you, 100% out of 100 times out of 100 times, we're sitting there. I'm like, I don't know why I was dreading this as like an energy expenditure. Like, this is a fun hobby that I have that just is a creative outlet, but also fills my cup up. So yet again, homie, if you need more reassurance or another thank you, Matt, thank you so much for letting me be your co-host.
I mean, well, that's the thing is like, you know, the energy that like we put into this is replenished, and it's one of those things that like almost, I don't want to say never stops, but when we record an episode, there's enough time between recording that episode and then it coming out, and then we get a random feedback from somebody that's like, hey, I really liked like today's episode. I got feedback that was like laughing at a lot of people responded with a laughter at me talking about my youngest daughter stabbing me in the kidney if I like looked at her wrong. And it's funny, but it's also true. And, you know, those things are like, man, I didn't think that part was going to be funny, but okay, like whatever floats your boat. All right. And, you know, one of the things that like this series of, you know, Boss Babes and the interviews that we did, I got to interview somebody that I'd only really met, you know, by happenstance until they put like tattoo ink in my arm. And then, you know, got to interview one of my longtime friends who like, I didn't think would even be down to do this, but like, you know, she said, I trust you enough to do this. And you apparently think my story is important enough for people to hear. And, you know, those two like extremes of a situation are not possible unless we're creating a safe space, unless we're creating an environment where like authentic, organic conversation can have, whether we have a list of questions we're asking or not. And I think that that's super important. And one of the things that like you weren't a part of this interview, but I hope people really enjoy is Lauren Stoney, or Lala Fox. She is a female drag racer, just started not that long ago. She's a content creator, and we talked cars a little bit, but also we talked her journey in mental health, her journey in being a woman in male dominated like atmosphere and not letting that stop her, as well as learning as you go and being accepting of learning as you go. And that's one of those things that like for me is transcendent of everything. It doesn't matter what like you said, there's a niche thing for you. If you're a seamstress who lives in the upper, part of Manhattan, but you only like to go out on Tuesday nights, there's a group for you. I promise. And that's kind of the like crux of all of this, is giving space to those conversations. Doesn't happen easily, but if you continue to try at it and you continue to be authentic in it, we get to have those conversations. And I think that that's awesome. And, for me, one of the really like fun parts about this is to sit back and like take in what they're saying. Like the episode with the Doms we just did, I didn't know how that was going to go. And like, we talked about having you on, and then it didn't work out that for you to be on. And I was like, still super happy to have that interview. And like the entire time I wasn't thinking, like, man, Kaitlin let me down. I was thinking, Kaitlin said, this is my boundary. This is my, this is something that I feel convicted in at this time for this reason. So, that's what it is. And I was like super proud that you said, hey, this is how I feel about this. And it wasn't like you were like putting them down, putting any of the situation down. It was just for how you felt in that moment. This is what it was. And I loved that you've come that far. And as a co-host, you were able to say this, which is the safe space that we create.
Let me just also tell you that maybe this time next year, I'll be joining you for that interview, because did I ever think realistically on like maybe our second or third episode that we were co-hosting together that I would be interviewing our wonderful, beautiful friends from Sex Reimagined together? Not only that, but like you holding space for like the sex experts or the sex workers or the sex psychologists that like I have never really listen, we hint about my upbringing a little bit with the with this next interview that's about to come out with our Sex Reimagined. It was so validating. I came out and I said, like, listen, like, this is just a very foreign topic for me. Like, even when I was in high school, raised in the Bible Belt here in Missouri, like, it was a very prominent thing. Like, people wore hats and t-shirts with this whole saying based out of the church that modest is hottest. And when I said that, and not only our wonderful friends at Sex Reimagined, but even you were like, huh, that's different. That was so validating that that's like another part of like sex education and like sex culture specific here to the Bible Belt that I have to almost like reprogram myself with. So again, it's the space that you're holding here, the topics and the conversations that you're having. I wouldn't necessarily put anything too far off of the realm of possibility, just because I think it's already, I posed the question to you back in the day whenever you had this first idea for a podcast. I'll also, if I could go back to Kaitlin and the first interview that I gave, where I even like interviewed you for your own podcast before we even knew that this was going to be an over a year plus co-hosting fun friendship, that like, the topics and the conversations that you're having, I absolutely believe that you are fulfilling the mission that you set out to do, just specific to like the education and the change of perspective that I've gotten over the past year, being able to not only go back and listen to episodes that we've recorded, but also interviews that you've done that I was not a part of for one reason or another. I just think it's very timely. And, we're sitting here talking about your sweet girl's 8th grade graduation tonight too. It's, we've had several conversations about raising daughters and being a parent in today's world. I think it's, I'm just very thankful that middle school Kaitlin, back in the day, has not only this podcast that I can listen to and the interviews that you do when I'm not around, but also to be able to participate in and take back my own power about some of these topics of conversation. So I don't know. Ask me again in a year, homie.
Yeah, well, and that's
with the Doms.
Like, yeah, so that's the thing. I am some point in time going to do an interview on their show, so that'll be interesting. I'm not exactly sure like the format of how they're going to handle it, which is like kind of a nervous thing just because I have no idea, but I'm super excited to take on the opportunity and, you know, spread the word about what we try and do here. And, you know, what we try and do here is, like I said, safe spaces and having conversations that, while maybe a little spicy for some, maybe a little out there for others, or maybe a little bit like, hey, I don't know anything about this topic. I love getting the messages from people after one of those episodes airs, and they're like, hey, I didn't know what to expect out of this episode when I saw the title or when I read the description or when I started it. Yep. But I'm so glad I listened to it because I learned something. It made me feel a certain way, and it didn't challenge my perspective in a way that made me feel bad. It challenged my perspective that made me realize, oh, hey, like I do feel this way, but that's okay. And to me, that's like the goal. The podcasts that I loved listening to when I started this, that inspired me to create a podcast, were podcasts like that, you know, it wasn't an echo chamber. It wasn't just one person sitting there talking about, you know, this is my opinion and this, that, and the other thing, with nobody to bounce ideas off of and nobody to, you know, like, what is it? The drinking well kind of conversations where, you know, you can debate ideas as a community and it's not looked at as something negative. It's looked at as something positive. And, you know, that's kind of what I want. Speaking of, circling back around to Mr. Chief's kicker, man, what holds me up about that whole thing isn't even what he said so much as the way that he said it. The words that he chose to use in that sentence could have been phrased a completely different way, and it wouldn't have even sounded wrong. He could have changed every to some of you, and that might have been different. He could have said, you know, like, I know that for me and what my faith has said, these things. He could have added a qualifier for himself and his beliefs, not pushing them on everybody else. But the way that he chose to say it and the conviction in which he used in his voice, while he is convicted in his views, it was using a moment that wasn't his to make his. And I think that that's where, for me, it drew a problem. Not only that, but like also, like, women, do whatever you want to do. Like,
so for our homies here at Homes Room that maybe don't know what we're talking about, can you take maybe like 5 steps backwards and introduce who this means is and why the fuck we're all not very happy with him right now?
Butker, the kicker for the Chiefs, decided to make his speech while at a Catholic college, Christian Catholic college. Mm-hmm. He decided to make this speech directed on what I would consider like 75% good. Like that, like last 25%, or that like thrown in, he just went off the rails a little bit, but it just depends. So what I'll do is this.
Today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
So that's just a clip from it, and that's like probably one of the more like circulated clips.
I have so much tea.
And like I said, the thing about it is that may be the path for some people. It may truly be. However, to my knowledge, that was a speech being delivered to PhD graduates. So anybody in that room has spent a large amount of their life studying, like they're halfway to their 10,000 hours, if not more, of mastering a thing. And they maybe aren't the demographic that message is like intended for, which is why I said like he chose to use his time to say this thing, which is fine. I just don't think that it was necessary for the situation that it was. If he had said that in any other speech, it maybe would have not been so weird. It was just weird at a graduation for college with people about to go out into the potential workforce. Like it was just strange. But also off the heels of Patrick Mahomes also saying like how much we need to support women's sports and women striking out on their own to become professional whatevers, and we need to support that. So like I think that happened Sunday and this graduation happened Saturday of the next week, so it was like literally back to back, and that's just one of those like poor timing, poor situation. So just like I said, so much of that just was unfortunate, and he could have changed like 4 words and it maybe didn't come off that way. He could have changed the inflection in which he delivered it as though he wasn't telling you what to do so much as like just stating a thing that is possible. I don't know. I
hope our homies are watching this video because I've been essentially gnawing at my microphone. Just it's taken so much self-control to just let you talk on me, because 100% absolutely hear where you're coming from. However, comma. So
semicolon, not comma.
Semicolon. Yes. So he decided in a predominantly religious commencement ceremony to call out the women who have busted their ass to get this degree, and tells them, you have had the most diabolical lie told to you. Already, pause, because there's so much that we can get into after that. But right there, pause. What is the diabolical lie? Is the diabolical lie that it's now 2024 and we do not have to be completely reliant on men for money, that we are allowed to go out into the world and obtain higher education? I wish that he would have given us a little bit more clarification about what the fuck this diabolical lie is. Whatever. To be given in 2024, to be given the opportunity to address an entire graduating class and use that as an opportunity to give and spew so much hatred, not just about women who have gone out into the world, left their home to seek higher education. He also spewed a lot of hatred about gay pride. He spewed a lot of hatred about men being lied to about what the definition of masculinity is. So it's also been this fun checks and balances system of as soon as a man puts himself out there and gives a speech like that, oh, okay, well, sit back and wait for everybody else to get their dukes up to return some punches. Because, come to find out, Matt, I don't know if you know this, he used to go to Georgia Tech. Word on the street is that he hooked up with a male Georgia Tech cheerleader while he was there, playing with or playing against Georgia Tech. On top of that, allegedly, 100%, somebody call me out if this is wrong, but the word on the street as well is that he was not necessarily somebody that was born and bred into the Catholic faith. He found it in college. And he also went through former Vice President Mike Pence's conversion camp for gay therapy twice. There's been a lot of fallout since he gave his speech. I am honestly, I still count it as a net win, because I don't know if I'm just on the right side of TikTok, even if we're about to come down on a nationwide ban, whatever. I am so proud that I live in a world where so many women are not only pissed off about what the fuck he said, but they're pissed off to the point of mobilizing and stitching all of these videos of his ignorant speech, of validating every gay person in the United States who has to listen to him spew some ignorant bullshit about we're so lost that we give a whole month to one of the deadly sins of whatever the fuck. Let me just step off my soapbox here by offering to you,
here,
Matt Holmes, my homie, that every bit of good PR that Travis Kelce has earned for the Kansas City Chiefs by dating Taylor Swift has been so invalidated and just violently removed.
So for the record, I don't agree with anything that he said. I was playing devil's advocate on, like, I could understand how that message was could have been delivered, at least towards women. Like, that message could have been delivered differently, and it might not, given the context in which he was like giving like commencement speech at a Catholic. Like, I could see how maybe that, like, there was like I could say this and it would make sense and it might reach some of them, but he just did it terribly. Also, I will add, my lights are rainbow behind me for a reason. With no other intent but to say, you know what? I don't know what color I'm going to do, so I'm going to throw up some pride colors behind me. Cause I'm going to throw up some pride colors behind me. So legitimately rainbow behind me right now. I just can't, like, I think that this is going to be one of the, I don't know if we should do this as like a Boss Babes thing and like address like the women's side of this and maybe throw in a little bit of what else. But conversations like this always, they just make me laugh, because legitimately, dude said what he said, and that's fine. You could say whatever you want to say. I believe in the First Amendment. However, the part of the First Amendment that it seems like everybody that has something like that to say, it's like, well, just let him speak. It's like, we did let him speak. The thing that they forget, because there's a petition going around to have him like removed from the team, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, everybody's a bunch of babies. Everybody, da, da, da. So here's the deal. And you learn this on the playground. And for some reason, they are always willing to say it when they say something like that. And then they have to deal with the consequence. They want to be like, well, that's not First Amendment. However, when you flip the tables and somebody says, well, I believe everybody has a choice and equal rights and this and that, and then somebody gets, trampled or something happens, and they're like, well, that's what happens when you open your mouth. Exactly. First Amendment, yes, you could say what you want. You could also get punched in the fucking mouth for saying what you said. That's a consequence for saying what you said. You were free to say it. I didn't tell you couldn't say it. I didn't say, hey, nope, and sew your lips shut. You said it. You just also got punched in the mouth for saying it. So what ultimately, like, spins this weird web around conversations like this is, while that was pure and utter stupidity, in the sense of didn't need to be said. Now it's backfiring on a lot of things that like didn't expect to have it backfire on. TikTok is, having a field day with it because that's most of what I've seen has been sent to me from friends off of TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's now a bigger thing, and it's a bigger thing because I assume, like I said, he wanted that platform and to do this because he ultimately knew what might happen, and it's getting people talking about it. However, the thing that's being talked about is not what he wanted to be talked about, I would assume. And with enough petition signatures from what I read, the ownership may actually have to take some sort of stock in releasing him from his contract. And I think that that's crazy.
Even if that doesn't happen, Matt, I think a lot of us have just gotten some sick enjoyment out of all these compilation videos of not only other women who have said, I was also a kicker on a football team. What? Like, it's hard. But so many people have also put together compilation videos of all the times that he went up to kick a field goal and he absolutely fucking fumbled the ball. Like, he missed the ball, tripped and fell, whatever. I've also seen, some feedback of like, make sure you tell Harrison Butker that, if there's ever going to be a role on a football team that a woman's going to do, it's going to be the kicker. It's arguably the least traditionally, masculine role on an entire football team. I don't know. I'm really surprised that we didn't see more videos of people like booing him while he was there. I just know that maybe I'm just a bull in a china shop and I can't mask what the fuck I'm thinking or feeling. If I was sitting there and he was giving that speech as somebody that got my not only bachelor's degree or master's degree, but like my PhD, whatever graduation he was there to give a speech for, I could not have kept my fucking mouth shut. He was up there spewing so much hatred, especially with the topics of conversation, the types of episodes that we've had, the diverse population of homies that tune into us every single week. If you are somebody that heard so much of Harrison Butker's speech and were very triggered by his, multiple viewpoints of ignorance, I see you. I validate you. I'm also among you because I'm automatically, I put myself in the perspective of a parent where like, if my daughter, she's almost 3 now, but in the future, if she busts her ass and goes into like debt or like I help her pay for a college degree and she busts her ass to achieve this momentous achievement in her life, and she's told by some millionaire Jesus loving freak that like, hey, I'm a millionaire, Jesus loves you, but also go make me a fucking sandwich kind of thing for her commencement speech, I would not be able to sit there and just take it. So
all right, I unleashed a like can of worms I wasn't prepared for, but I just want to put a bookmark or bookend on that particular topic by saying I said something about, I think it was yesterday, I said something about being hungry, and Courtney said something about making me a sandwich, and I stopped and I looked at her and I was like, I can make my own sandwich. And she looked at me and she was like, yeah, but I mean, if you're hungry and I'm in here, I can make it. And I was like, do I strike you as the person that would ever say, wife, go make me a sandwich? Because like, if I do, something's greatly fucking wrong here. I'm fully capable of making my own sandwich, going into the kitchen. She's like, yeah, but I'm in here. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm in here now and I got 2 hands and I know where everything is. So just as capable. So there's that. But back to what we were, using this episode for is to launch this Boss Babes thing. And, it is paramount that everybody out there understands that when we get these interviews, it is, for me, a ton of work to do research on them and to make sure I handle them with the care that they need and ask them questions that are going to get you to connect with them and what they do as importantly as, continuing to listen to my episode, because in the end, I want to celebrate that person and what they do, as opposed to just get listens on my podcast. Like, I think about that all the time, where it's not so much, I want to have success for myself when I do those episodes. I want to have success for that person. I want people to go look for that person. Specifically, like Lala Fox, I love what she's doing. And one of the things that she's creating is Turbos and Tatas, which is, I guess I don't want to say a not-for-profit, but like merch for donating to breast cancer and breast cancer awareness and breast cancer research, all of those things. And that was the thing that made me be like, I want to have her on.
Mm-hmm.
I set the goal as a New Year's resolution back in January for you guys, but December for me is when we recorded that. And I said, anybody in motorsports would be an awesome get, just because like, I think that that's something that I'm passionate about. And I was able to roll that into an episode for Boss Babes with a greater message. Yeah, we talked about motorsports. Yeah, I asked her some this or that questions that were more motorsportsy, and if you don't know, you don't know. But the episode isn't about motorsports. It's about who she is as a person and what she brings to the world. And I think that that's super important. We did joint interviews with a lot of people. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is how well you handled the conversation with one of my really good friends who I've known for forever. And, it was a conversation that was genuinely just between three homies sitting down, having a conversation. And that's not easy to do, especially when two of the three don't actually know each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, being the only link to that conversation for you two, but seeing how much you like connected with her,
mm-hmm.
just gives me hope that listeners will also connect with her and feel something to what she said. And obviously, Dr. Willow Brown and Leah Piper are super fun. I could have them on all the time and probably still find some fun thing to talk about. So, having these conversations and having those kinds of people on, while also having on, different walks of life and different, backgrounds, is the celebration of what it is to, be a child of the world, in my opinion. And that's what Homes Room at its core is about, is being a child of the world, being like, damn, I didn't know that that's a thing, but now I'm kind of interested in that thing. Wait, did I just learn something? Like that's what I love. So I'm glad that you got to participate in so many conversations, and I hope that we get to have more interviews together. And I hope that, a year from now, we're doing conversations that you yourself didn't think you would be able to participate in, because that's you growing as a person. That's you, stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I say it all the time. If you want to, make a difference and make a change in your life, you got to get comfortable getting uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And, that's the best part about this podcast is it's never uncomfortable. It's always just like, oh, damn. Okay. Yep. We're going there. Well, that was a good episode. So thank you. So that was your intro right there. Yeah, I appreciate being on here. Whatever you normally say, but
it's like you can read my mind. Yes, I can already tell you that that's very likely going to be an outcome as we're sitting here doing this interview. At that point, it would be 2 years. Wait, is it 2 years now that we've been?
No, it's a year. It's
a year now. So
yeah.
So it'll be 2 years at that point that this would be a annual family tradition here at the Homes Room podcast. I can already tell you, I'm very hopeful that will be an outcome. And something that I'm saying is like, oh, well, this was an insane interview that I never thought I would be a part of. That being said, homies, Homes Room listeners, our wonderful friends, our wonderful fam, our homies that have hung out with us episode after episode. If you have someone that you would like to nominate to be a part of our Boss Babe series moving forward, please, please let us know. We want to highlight women entrepreneurs. We want to highlight women trendsetters. We want to highlight those who are going against the grain and who are putting themselves out there boldly, and give them a platform to share their message and share their perspective here on the Homes Room Podcast. If you have anyone that you can think of that would love to hang out with us for an hour, we'd love to entertain them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any topics that you want us to talk about during this Boss Babe series, send it in. Linked in all of the Boss Babe series is anybody that you want to shout out as a Boss Babe in your life. So make sure you go give us that feedback, send us those things, and we'll shout them out on one of the episodes or on our social or whatever, because that's what this is about, is celebrating women and celebrating, all of the things that the people that are not going unnoticed, but not going super noticed, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know what the words I'm looking for is, but yeah, definitely send those in. I want to thank you, Kaitlin, for being a part of those interviews. I want to thank everybody that has done the interviews. I want to thank you and people listening. We wouldn't have as much fun doing this if we didn't know somebody was on the other side, maybe taking some of this in and being like, damn, that was fun, or damn, that was a good episode, or damn, I got an opinion about that. And hopefully this, next chunk of episode, release interviews, us talking about Boss Babe topics, just goes so much better than last year, and last year didn't go bad. With that also said, we're taking a recording break, so I'm going to miss you for a little bit, buddy, but I hope that when we come back, we're re-energized and we have some fun, and we start, recording these Boss Babe episodes with just the two of us, or, if somebody does send in somebody to interview and we get an interview out of it. But I hope that we are, turn to 11 in a good way.
Absolutely. Love you, homies. We will catch you next week on the Homes Room Podcast.
Well, kind of, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In the future. Bye. The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.